Well, is the truth of those, from those that love us, given for a blessing? Yes. So we like to be open. But being open is only valid if we're loving, truly. So I don't say things to hurt you, is this a lovely dress? I like the colour. Where did you get it? How much it cost? I might sidestep. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't think it is a lovely dress. It's not right in some way. From my point of view, for instance, it might be all black, and I take black to be a depression symbol and a bit problematic for people who are always in a black environment, Oh, sorry, this doesn't mean I'm racist. I don't dismiss people by the colour of their skin. On the contrary, I was madly in love with a lady from South India whom I married. Still love her too. Doesn't love me though, but still, we don't go down that road. Yes, well, I'm confronted with a school parent time because my daughter's gone into the senior part of the school. She's 13, and we can go and have a chat with the staff that run that section of the school. I'd like my daughter to be there. I wonder if the school has this view, or if they prefer the child not to be there. I would feel that lack of openness to the child is, in some sense, a breach of my integrity towards her. Being a dearest friend, she can trust me utterly, what I'm doing and what we're doing for her, ideally. Are there circumstances where knowing that could be detrimental or distressing? I suppose there are, but I wouldn't like to assume that we have to be steering our child's future behind their back. It would be better to see and to know, and to be assured that we know that they are loving us and why they're doing what they're doing, because of their hopes and fears perhaps for our future. And we're trying to steer them in a certain direction. But to hide the fact that we're doing this, and then perhaps they get the inkling that we're doing something that we've not been open about, starts to destroy the relationship of trust and assurance. And that could be a bigger disaster than it could be. I don't know. I'm just saying, could be a greater disaster than being open in the first place and saying, well, doesn't look as though she has a particular ability, and therefore it's not a good idea for us to encourage her to go down that road, although she wants to do it. Now, I had this with when she made when she was making the decision, as she understood it, to go into the upper school. There was the possibility of going to what would have been a grammar school, I guess, equivalent, a high status school in the area that we're sort of in, but not really. We're not in their catchment area because I still am, I think. And her mum isn't. And her mum, living separate to me, of course, some 10 years or so, 12 years, whatever it is. 10 years. Doesn't live in the catchment area, and therefore I was, I was saying that I didn't think it was the right school for her because where she is culturally much better, and emotionally and spiritually much better, Rudolf Steiner School, than a secular state school. From my perspective of what's going to bring her happiness and fullness of life, and hopefully, of course, life eternal. Well, I'm certain we all have life eternal. It's just that we'd like it to be sooner than later. I think. So, was I making decisions behind her back? No, I said, look, I don't think it's best for you, love. You want to do it. Okay, I'll come with you to the school. I'm not going to lie, though, and say that you're with me most of the time, and therefore I'm definitely in the catchment area, and of course, therefore you are as well. I didn't do that. And I told her I wasn't going to do that. But I did say I'd go along and support her application because she might well get in that way, and that's what she wants. I don't think that's best for your future, love, but I'm not going to block it, but I'm not going to lie to achieve it. That's not the way to go, love. I mean, quite honestly, I think from the godly point of view, it'd be best you stay where you are. The uncertainties are greatly reduced in doing that, and well, spiritually it's a much better school. Whatever the world may think about the high status school. So I was open about it, and well, this was very upsetting to her that I wasn't putting it on her plate to go where she wanted to go, but felt led not to do it. So she could possibly understand, well, Dad's a religious nutter and be put off religion for life sort of thing, Well, of course, being put off religion for life might be good, but being put off the Jesus story for life, that I feel would be a terrible cost. Does that mean I should have done it surreptitiously? Felt that it was God's will she doesn't go there and blocked it without letting her know I'm blocking it. Now, that would have been horrible. I mean, that's duplicity, and you don't know where you are. Could you ever trust Dad again? Do you see? So I think openness is key. And when you find, for instance, that governments are hiding something, they may be hiding it for your good, but they're so often in the real world hiding it for some other ulterior motive. And we end up not trusting our governments. And that's disastrous, of course, because, how can we pull together? Well, we can't, because we don't trust each other. And this is the reality of the modern world. They don't trust each other. They say, well, if pushed, he will renege, he will turn, he will, suddenly he'll be on the other side, because it's his overwhelming best interest to do so. And this is the world that I think necessarily appears to us. The very serious, earnest partner might suddenly think, in the passage of time, come to the thought that they shouldn't be with you after all, and they divorce you. They could have done it because they want to go into holy orders or something. Well, you would say it was for good reason, good purpose, perhaps. Or perhaps you wouldn't. And even that judgment is an uncertainty. Everything in this world is laced with uncertainty, not least the view of our values and what they should be. You know, what religions are valid and what aren't, and what philosophical views are valid and what aren't, and so on. Everything is laced here with uncertainty. And if we can't trust that God is in charge of that as a blessing, that it appears uncertainty to us as a blessing, if we can't accept that, I think this life becomes a nightmare. Not necessarily immediately. You may be carried along happily by youthful hopes. But there's a certain monotony and drudgery of life that kills you. And it comes upon you, I think, if you don't have the view that there's a loving God who loves specifically you. That's why I think the actual Jesus story has survived 2,000 years. Because in some sense, I also hope to goodness that this is valid. And without that hope, my life would be very miserable. So I'm not choosing it. I'm choosing to hope. So we choose life. And this Jesus story has come that we might have life and have it more abundantly. It advertises itself. You may say, well, that's not a very reliable witness. Well, it's all the witness you have. Does it speak to you? Does it speak to... Do you have ears to hear? Do you gel with it? If you do, you'll run with it. Bless you. If you don't, well, you'll search on. And I don't know how long you'll search on, of course, nor do you. Perhaps you'll come back to it in the end. From my point of view, and I hope it's God's, it will come to you in the end. It's an all-powerful God who loves you. I take that to be the Jesus story. The all, beginning and all, end of it. Our Dad. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Well, let me add a note to this recording. I've listened to it twice, and it's some considerable time after I first recorded it. You know, I haven't published it yet at this moment. And, well, there's a lot of confusion in it. It leaves you, therefore, the uncertainty in it leaves you with a freedom. And I think that's bizarrely or possibly its value. You can choose. Which means you can take a path now that experiences perhaps what you need to know. It turns on who you are, what you value at present, what your hopes are, and therefore what you need to experience to find out the validity or otherwise of such. And that's why we're here, in this universe, this world. And I trust it's by the goodness and grace of God, because He loves us. As I say, I can't want to trust anything other than this, because this is what I value. To value anything other than this seems a disaster to me now. So I tend to live accordingly. And I find, by my experience, I suspect whether I'm right or wrong. But there's a trust in the back of my mind, so to speak, or my motivation, and it is because of the values I at present have. And I think that's so for all of us. And so we call to ourselves, I think, the right lesson for who we are, and ideally to where we need to go. And I trust in that as an ideal because of my values. And our values change with experience, of course. Well, I say of course, but I expect most of the time, or often, for many of us it seems. And I trust that this is good. To trust otherwise would be too sad to contemplate. So we are driven by our hopes, and I trust that such situation is to a blessing. Would there be any gain in trusting otherwise? I don't think so. But I'm not sure. Because uncertainty abounds. And the Jesus story presses us to trust that there is a God and that he loves us. No favourites. Loves all life as the Father of life. A perfect dad. And that to live to this hope and ideal is incredibly worthwhile. Is what we think of as life, and life eternal for real. What a story. What an inspiration of Spirit. Holy Spirit. Devoted to God. As Dad. Loving Dad. You know from simple experience to put your trust in a person tends to bring out the best in them. To not trust them means no true relationship, so guarded in fact that it's not a relationship at all. It becomes a defensive hostility. Not a happy situation. Of course the ideal is that both love each other. Well, I say of course, and that's what we understand to be the hope of heaven. A wonderful place where all truly love each other. And the Jesus story takes the view that it turns on a trust that God is our heavenly dad. Something close to that. Divine Mother or dearest friend. But the Jesus story puts it in terms definitely of Heavenly Dad. Thank you for this story, Heavenly Dad. Love you. Thank you, Dad.